Yo. Oh man, sorry, my stream deck is kind of messed up right now. But yeah, back at it again. I'm gonna quit stream deck. Sorry, I've gotten so used to having all the controls that when it doesn't work, it's kind of a problem. So, um, but sometimes it has just an issue syncing up um, with Streamlabs. It's the only it's the one. Ooh, why is it throwing up an error? Off to a great start. What is going on here? Collection none, source none. What? It's like fully broken right now. Kind of sucks. Retrieving scenes. Yeah, it's like not even connecting right now, which is really strange. But so if things are a little rough today, that's why. Usually having all my stuff readily accessible helps smoothen things out on an already pretty janky stream. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Bob and weave, I guess. No. I think what else I can do. There's always the old unplug it, plug it back in approach, which why not? I may unplug something else entirely doing this, but that's half the fun, right? This is a cable. Huh? Wait. That's what this cable is? Oh, man. I thought this was... Okay, is that gonna do it? You learned your lesson? Nope. So it says retrieving scenes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and chalk that up to an L. Early morning L's. Yeah, I really don't know what to do about this. Fresh, does that work? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna waste any more time on this. It's just bugging out. I wonder if anything will work in like Sketch, but we'll find that out in time. Yeah. What is good? Don't have a ton of plans for this one. I think I spent the last couple streams working on the new photo site I'm doing with Ari. Our last one was about the creating like a blog type deal. So I got that live. Actually, this might be particularly painful, but bear with me. Chrome. There has to be a better way. I'd love to hear if anyone has a better way of doing this. Because I feel like this sort of constant searching for things, adding them, gotta be a better way to do it. But yeah, so I have like a first pass of I'm calling it stream right now. That's gonna change. I've been working on branding for something. I just can't settle on a name for it. But the idea is, if you weren't here last time, that this is just gonna be like a very easy, quick thing for me to update. It's ways for me to just post stuff I'm working on. I'm gonna try and post this stuff to Dribble as well, but I think having like a hub here is kind of nice, especially for everything that I'm doing. I think like there's some subtle reinforcement of the dates that things are going out on, how frequently things are being updated. I think that's something that probably plays to my strengths. Is like I'm always working. I'm always just kind of jumping in and out of things, and this is, I think, a good way to show some variety. Um, so, yeah, I think that's going to be something useful. I have ideas of what it could be. I don't really know. Um, the one thing I'm already sort of mentally red flagging is CMS collections in Webflow limit you to 100 per. So that's why right now I have edition 1, and I had this idea of treating it almost just like a digital magazine. But that's the problem, is the second I start treating it as digital magazine, then I've made this thing more complex than it's worth. But right now, each of these modules, like, so what I want to do is basically have different layout modules or options for each thing. So for like a gallery, maybe some of these go full bleed, some of them are multi-images. So it kind of has this editorial feel, but like at the end of the day, it should be just as easy as me like writing a couple bits of text, dropping some images in there, and just being done with it. I don't want to have like full blog posts. I've tried that. I don't do it. No one gives a shit to read that stuff. So that's where I think this, whatever the stream name ends up being, I think it's, I don't know, it could be really fun. Some of the branding ideas I was working on were kind of interesting. I don't know. And I'm fully aware that this stream is, it's pretty confusing because I also live stream, and that's something I talk about in the original section. So I'm trying to workshop that one out a little bit. So bear with me. This is going to change. I would share what I've started, but I had an edible and thought it was great, and then I hated it. So, you know, I almost published it as it was. And the litmus test was trying to explain to my girlfriend what the idea was behind it, or like what I was doing and what it was called. And I was like, as soon as I almost like told her the name, I was like, that's really dumb. So I need to pivot a little way. Is there any way you can go over some color workflow at some point? What do you use to pick colors? I'm super OCD about it, end up spending too much time. Well, you might not find much reprieve in my direction. See if I can open up Ari's. So Ari's is one, or no, it's even like my old folio. I could open up multiple, and it might, I don't know if it'll give you anxiety or not. That's not my goal here. Where is it? Yeah, I'll open up a couple. I can talk about it at a high level, and like maybe it'll be helpful. Not? No. So there's this one. So right now, I know I'm not desktop streaming just yet. Let me make sure. I didn't even check all my settings. And that do not disturb on. Web. Design. I have so much. Let's see. Oh yeah. Just call it case study colors. Make sure I get this for maximum effect. Get rid of all these panels. Really a lot of effort in the presentation going on here. It's really a mess. Let's see. Colors. So I've always had this idea of, I don't know, I think my like how I look at colors has changed. I think the one on the left here is predates everything that's on the right here. I think um, the idea of like what the theme is for each of these, like for my own personal stuff, I think it wanted to be a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more bold. Whereas with Ari, this is a palette that's kind of been felt out a little bit in terms of ultimately it has to be something he likes and also feels relevant. So we went through a lot of iterations on some of these. Like, so I would just work on some of these, create some alts, um, and then run it by him, see what he's feeling, and that kind of like gave us this more like. So in general, like having a top level theme of like the colors you want to use, I think is really important. There's a couple moments where I break it, like this GTA. This actually didn't end up even going live. I think he took that off. So I think this Jenny one might be the most kind of saturated. So like you start just like narrowing in on like a wheelhouse to operate within. So you start knowing like what your color ranges are, what your saturation levels are. So you can see a lot of these colors pretty high on the saturation. I mean, can I select all these? That one's not. This one definitely is. So it's like having, like I know the vibe I want for mine, so it's like, it's kind of more aggressive, like these colors, super saturated. How I pick like pairings, I think is, that's a, that gets into like color theory in some ways. At this point, it's kind of become, like, I don't think about it too much. I think about the vibe and I kind of know, I think like this UA one, like there's a certain level of dissonance in terms of these being pretty close to complementary colors. Like that creates some tension, which I love doing. I have a lot of fun with dissonance, whether it's anytime I do music production, I love just like creating dissonance. Visual dissonance, I think, is more interesting. So if you choose like very safe palettes, it's going to feel kind of calm, but I don't know. There's something about adding a little tension to it. And it's, you can't do it all the time, but it's like kind of picking your moments of like um, having some dissonant color palettes, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's anything else. Let me make sure if I reread this. Yeah, workflow. So the workflow is starting out with like kind of like a vibe you want to go for, narrowing in on like the characteristics of the colors. Like, is it more saturated? Is it more pastel? What's the vibe? What do I use to pick colors? So I typically just use just the color picker. Like, it kind of goes back to how I started doing my photos and doing color gradings there. Like as I'm applying, I should fire up Lightroom while I'm at this. Make sure I quit. Let me do desktop streaming real fast. Make sure I don't have anything up that shouldn't be. Not much. Ooh, I'm glad I'm not desktop streaming right now. Sorry, just found a document that I need to. Definitely don't want out. Not because it's incriminating or anything. Just kind of funny. Oh my god. Sorry, I know this has kind of just derailed my whole thing. Let's get back to desktop streaming. So it kind of comes back to, yeah, like, so color grading. Like, this is where I think like photos and design have kind of like cross-pollinated in some ways. If I'm looking at color grading things, so let's say, like as I'm applying, because it's really like how you color grade also gets into like the color theory and like where things are blending in at different values. This is through the lens of like, this is how you're applying color to highlights, this is how you're applying it to shadows, but it's all kind of the same thing of like creating a color palette of how things go together. So there's like some of these, which, I mean, they're kind of all over, but this is where it might be unsatisfying to hear that I operate a bit on feel. Like, I'll just sit here, like, I call it, I think what I've referred to as just like doing laps. Like, I don't really know the color. I'll know it when I see it. So I'm doing laps here, and then with Sketch, like, I'll have, like, let's say a background color I'm happy with, and then depending on like maybe I think the contrast levels are right. So then I'll just start looking at hues. Like, okay, what sort of hues like feels right? And then it might just trigger like a different jump off to like oh shit, like if I go like more of like a tone on tone, but let's say I like make it darker, or like this is just like a bad example, because these are all terrible and this is a lot of color to look at right now. I realize that, but it's like, yeah, I don't know how most other people do it, but for me it's like it's primarily feel of like, this is the vibe I'm feeling, this is like the tension, because some of these are like non-conventional, some of them are more conventional. Like, this is like feel is brand, so it's like sometimes you have like guardrails you need to operate within, but how do you look at it in the broader spectrum? But again, like, this is where going on feel can get you in trouble a little bit, of like, if you're trying to create a system. This is why I did something like this, was so I could step back and have visibility into like, okay, what's jumping out, what doesn't seem to belong. Like, this idea for Harrods was just kind of wild, and you could argue it's not really out of place. I think I just caught these. So I was looking at also like the categories, and so for the categories I was thinking more like desaturated, sort of, I don't know what you'd call these, not earthy tones, because clearly they're not, but it's like I'd sample colors from the images and just bring it in that way. So hopefully that answers it. And for me, like, a lot of times it's yeah, it's like I use images a lot of times. Like, I'll find an image that I really like, and I'll just go in. I think so, that's how some of these were made, was just like these shadow colors were pulled from like something in here. And like, because a lot of images that have like a nice color balance, where they feel balanced, like that's because they have nice colors applied to it. So for me, it was always like that was one way I used to create color palettes. Don't do it anymore. I don't know why. I don't know where this image came from, but it's there. I used to do like, if there were different images that I don't know, like, let's say a client referenced something they really like, and there's like an image that particularly fit their vibe, I would just make color palettes like this. It'd be a start, and you kind of like start recognizing different things of like, okay, that's kind of working, that's not working. But yeah, because then like the other part for me is like color, there's a lot of emotion tied to it. So like, before I got into color grading, I really didn't understand how emotion was coming through in images. So I'd find like a dramatic cinematic image and be like, fuck, like that is the feeling like I want to encapsulate in design. Can't always do it with like e-commerce type stuff. It's like a dark dramatic image, but I mean, sometimes with marketing sites, like the colors are a bit more immersive, and like what you choose has a bit more of an effect. So I mean, I don't know if I have any here. Wasn't trying to go too dark. Yeah, like something like this, like has like kind of like a darker mood. So if I do the same exercise here, I mean, and sometimes it's like there's not as many colors, it's more monochromatic. So this gave me a sense sometimes of like, I mean, so this is like I'm already kind of running out of colors here, because this is almost like a two-tone. Like the way color grading is applied to this, it really kind of takes everything else out of it. There's like little yellow accents here, but even that's not showing up. So it's like, yeah, that's a palette. It's crazy how red the shadows are. But yeah, so this is something I used to do. I've gotten to a point now where I just go on feel. I kind of know what's gonna feel right, but this was like an important step. Just kind of breaking down, like, okay, why do I like this image? This is why. How do I then start applying it? And then it's like everything with design. Like the more you do it, the more like second nature it starts to feel. So, yeah. I'm not insane. I do this a ton. Good to, yeah. I mean, we're all a little crazy in design, but you know, I don't know. Playing with color is fun. It's like the meme of the kid with like the crayon. What is it? Yeah. Like this is how like I think I like for basic back in the day there was like a careers page, and it was like it was just like a bunch of memes to represent the different categories of like designers, developers. Like, sorry developers, it was kind of like a nerdy person. Like, just in the same way developers look at designers as like these fucking kids with crayons, just like gimme and let's go crazy and like all that stuff. So, um, yeah, and it's I don't know. It's always interesting how colors evolve over time too. I think I've gotten more subtle is what I would say is kind of what's happened. I think that's the arc you always, or I always go in. I'm not gonna say you or we. I'm not gonna project this sort of arc on anyone else, but like everything I do, I always like ratchet it up too far. I'm like, oh shit, that's actually not that good. If I just added a little bit, I was probably at my best. Um, but yeah, colors are fun. I think it's Ari calling me John Colorway was kind of funny. Funny dude. Actually, on that point, close this down. Yeah, Ari and I site of the day today. So thank you to everyone who voted. Much appreciated. I think right now the 8.1 is pretty good. I think it's like one of the higher ones of the month, so we should be at least a nominee for site of the month, which is awesome. I think that's something that I don't know. Never done a site of the month on my own, so that'd be cool. The usability score cracks me up. I don't know. All these scores just crack me up sometimes. I like never look at them. They are sort of funny when they come through, but like, you know, catch someone on a bad day and they're tossing out twos and stuff. It's like whatever. Can't worry about that. But yeah, thank you to everyone who voted. Much appreciated. At the risk, I can't imagine there's anyone here who hasn't seen this site, but that's right. I can't do the. I can only chat. I can only send messages in YouTube. I don't think anyone's here from Twitch right now. Oh, I'm logged into a different account. Oh well. Yeah, there you go. That's from a different YouTube account, but yeah, that's the site. Oh, it blocked me. Didn't go through. Interesting. Let me go back to Chrome browsing. Let me just switch accounts so I can post links if anything else comes up. And again, apologize. My stream deck is rogue. I don't know. Don't know what to say about that one. Yes, here we go. There it is. Where was I? Yeah, we're on the right page now. I should keep that open. Sorry. Sorry. Rookie streamer. Sorry. This open. Just like this. Multi-stream. I was surprised by the high mobile score. There was no site on mobile. I guess they just judged on basis of layout of page on major devices. Yeah, so it's actually funny you said that. I looked at, I mentioned that to Ari too. I was like, damn, never knew we just had to do nothing to get really high mobile scores. And I think it's just purely performance at the end of the day. Like they don't, I think they evaluate it on a very like black and white scale, and it's like it's a mobile site and it's really performant because there's nothing there. So yeah, that's how that works. It was also funny, the other thing that that brought down the score was the colors, ironically. They give you like an analysis of the site, and there was something in like the performance, and one of the biggest hits, and I don't know what the category was, but it was all about like color contrast wasn't there. It's just like, whatever, you know. I don't know. I bet you this has to pass. I'm trying to think which ones wouldn't pass. I mean, it's definitely not ADA compliant, that's for sure. Not by choice, it's just like, I don't see any like super problematic ones so far. It's gotta be the size. Oh, that's where it is. It's the opacity that we like knock that down to. I can't imagine that's gonna pass. That won't pass. That'll pass. Yeah. Yeah, so you know, whatever. I guess if they want to knock us down for it, I already didn't care. We were kind of in agreement that you gotta break the rules every once in a while. Crack a couple eggs to make an omelet. Although those are probably not the eggs you want to crack all the time, but terrible analogy, but that's what I'm good for. Hey, great to see Ari's side on side of the day. Congrats. Thank you, Malik. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, feels good to, I mean, having my site on there, it's kind of like, all right, but I think this one's a bit more serious. And like building it from scratch and something that's a bit more unique, I think is pretty cool. Mobile scores, just Google Lighthouse test, etc. It's all about performance. There's not the design, motion, etc. Yeah, Andy, that's kind of what I came to understand too. So super performant. I think because they're probably thinking like, I don't think there's it's not a lot of sites that make it through to side of the day that just don't have a mobile site. So they're probably, this is kind of an edge case for them in terms of how they analyze things. They're thinking pretty much everyone has a mobile site these days, which we do. It's just telling you to look at on desktop. So, yeah, not the greatest, but what can you do? So yeah, I don't know what to work on. If there's any, but I think one thing that came clear, like, so I've been working on, so just as an update, the photo site, I've been going through and doing like some stress testing of this interface on light images. I think last time I was doing some testing on some light image. It's still like, I think we're gonna have to be relying on like motion versus static. Like you can see some of the stuff baked in there. These, I just don't know how they're gonna stay. This is clearly not right. Oh, this is the wrong. Should be 16 millimeter. I know this should be 200. This is what should be 200. Yeah, so you can see there's still some concerns here that I need to work through. I think I've belabored this to a point where I don't know if anyone's really interested in, like, oh, let's make sure these dials all work on edge cases. Yeah, I can bore you to tears if you want. But one thing that came clear is like Ari's doing some testing. I don't know if I can. He might be. I don't know. He's working on prototyping this out. I wonder if I could just do it quick. Ari, if you're watching, I don't think it's anything too secret. So he showed me. Oh, wow! You download through Discord and it ends up in a browser. Didn't know that. I'll make it small, so I don't know. Maybe it'll be better. Yeah, I'm not desktop streaming just yet. Let's see. Where am I? Here we are. So you can see. I don't know. Maybe you can't. I don't know like what size. I'll make it a little bigger, but it doesn't link to anything yet. But you can see the concepts coming together right now in terms of like how you navigate that big patchwork. So he's just got to link it. He's been working through some I guess he's been having some zooming things he's working through. So I don't know. It's all over my head, but that's kind of a photo site update. It is still very much chugging along. Let's see. Let's see, most scores is. John mentioned in past streams, Ari definitely knew what he was doing. Big lessons learned. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about like everything for this site. Go back to Chrome. Everything was performance minded. Everything. Like I think people have issues with some of the interactions or whatever. It's all for performance reasons. So yeah, mobile. Maybe he had the master plan of like getting a super high mobile score and just knew the easiest way to get that is just to not really do one. I wouldn't be surprised. He never told me that, so don't quote me. Was it intended to make the website desktop only, or had some performance limitations on mobile? No, you know, let's see, actually. So I did this one other time. So if you emulate it, it works. Drag doesn't work. Keyboard works, that's right. So everything scales down to mobile. I never have asked him why. Let me ask him. Take a screenshot of this. I don't have Discord open. Sorry, just typing to him. See what it says. Yeah, so it does, in all theory, work. There are no thumbnails. But this is like, I don't think he ever thought of this as as something that like, I mean, the interaction makes sense on mobile, but like the fact that this scales down to mobile, this was not his intention. He just thinks in very like practical terms. So everything should theoretically scale. Like theoretically on a desktop, you could get to this size just by doing progressive um, sort of scaling. But ideally, people aren't looking at it this size. But yeah, so see if he says anything. I just sent him a screenshot of that. See if he wants to make any comments about it. Prelia's art is not hitting performance marks on his previous project. He scrapped the mobile version for his portfolio from the start. So we can ask Ari about it more. Yeah, I mean, there could be performance things. I know there's a lot of complexities with mobile in general, and I don't know if he just sees it as like a cost-benefit thing. Like he just, again, knows his traffic is coming from primarily all these like desktop social media. Like I said, like he pretty much like he's a very prominent individual on Twitter, on Dribble, on LinkedIn, and I think that's where he's connecting with people who he's potentially going to work with. Not so much like the Instagrams. Like I think he does a lot of Instagram, but I don't think he's dependent on people navigating to his experience on mobile. So maybe it's just a cost benefit thing at the end of the day. Not totally sure, but curious if he'll say anything about it for sure. Ari already shared on his story. So I think he shared. Oh, maybe he did. I don't know if he shared both. He's got another one of like the actual zooming in, zooming out. Because he sent me two. Yeah. I don't know if he ever showed like the joystick working. He's not gonna get mad. Like, he shows so much like work in progress stuff, and yeah, he shared my work in progress designs all the time with like really shitty colors on it. Like, damn it, Ari, can you not? Let's see. Appreciate all the comments. I mean, just gonna have to get caught up a little bit. John told that Ari had insight on why I did not want to do mobile from the beginning. I've seen the code. He deletes the classes on mobile devices, probably meta tags. Yeah, I mean, I think you probably have a better idea of what he's doing with the mobile. Yeah, who knows? Harold, what's going on, man? Floating head stream, nice. Yeah, this is like, I have like one white sweatshirt and then one blue shirt. Everything else is black. And it's kind of funny in a room that's all white. So if I have the hood on, like incognito mode, like I don't know. It's kind of cold in here, so that's why the hoodie's on. Plus, I just wear hoodies all the time indoors. It makes no sense, I know, but what can you do? Floating, yeah, I got that. Arjun, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Side of the day. Yup. Side of the month next. Let's get it. I was gonna say something. Yeah, so I mean, I'm open to it. I think I called the stream a photo and Webflow thing. There's things I can work on with this stream section, which is now, as of this morning, pushed to the main navigation on most pages. I actually don't think it's on all pages, but it's just the beginning of it. I think it'll be fun to do, like, build this out as its own little like platform. I don't know how everything's going to coexist with like the photo/media site that Ari and I are doing. This is going to have like random, like the equivalent of tweets that'll live here. It's basically consolidating all my social media activity to one place and making it as easy as possible. Um, but yeah, I think like growing this, I think having different views so it can just be like, I mean, the closest thing I could think of is like a Pinterest grid, so you just get like a high level feel of like what I'm doing. Um, so you could see it like this, or you could see it like this. I think this is like the traditional linear experience, but like I don't know. I think I turned the rain up with this. I was fucking around with my hood. That's the one thing. If you have the AirPod Maxes and you wear a hood, you just like you'll just touch the dial and suddenly you're just blasting music. It's keeps you on your toes. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll switch it up for at least a little bit. And photos is one of those things that's kind of super low key and like again, anything comes to mind you want to talk about, you know, definitely give me a shout. Yeah, I built this in a day, which to me is still kind of wild to go from like zero design to development to deployment. I could have deployed it like within 12 hours, and it's all tied to a CMS. I have branding to it. That's kind of what held it up. I was talking about earlier, but yeah, as like a designer, like I know like Webflow, like put me on your payroll or something. I don't know. I feel like I've hawked like Webflow on everyone. Um, I don't know if that's the best way to put it. Hawk and Webflow. I know it's a word you could use on like giving it to someone else, but that combination specifically kind of hints at something else. Not as nice, but um, yeah, just to be able to like have an idea, dev it, make it responsive, all in a day. It's, mobile could be better, transitions could be better, everything could be better, but it's like a 1.0. That's kind of how I see everything. Um, so yeah, um, even just design in Webflow. Yeah, I mean this was something so the branding part of it, where I think like this might become like a magazine cover, especially if I have to do editions of like 100 posts. Um, it's yeah, it's wild. Like there was some design for that outside of it, but that was mostly branding. I think everything else was just like, I mean, it's as easy as like, all right, I want to have like a magazine cover. I could probably do this again real fast. So when I do a cover, it's looking at like, I don't know what the colors were. I was all over. I had some really strange colors yesterday. This is just not working because it's a link. Links are really dumb. Um, but it's like that sort of modification going back and forth of like, all right, is it a magazine cover? Is it something else? And I want to get the branding down for this before I really like publicly like position it as like a magazine type thing or like I don't know what you call it. I don't want to have long form, so I don't know what that makes it, but um, yeah, I think there'll be easy ways to do like multiple different layouts so it's not this kind of boring thing. Although at the same time, like if you're talking pure legibility, having like the left-hand rail being consistent is super important. So, can you talk about the UX research workflow? Like when should we break rules? When we shouldn't? Hmm. I mean, what sort of rules are you thinking about breaking? I mean, fuck, it'll date me a lot. You know what? I'll take a trip down memory lane. I haven't seen this in a minute. I'm curious. Its current state. Yeah, it's evolved a little bit. Definitely has. I don't know if I like it as much. Biased, but yeah, it's this. Yeah. Ooh. Huh. Yeah. Can't say this is what I would recommend, but center lining breadcrumbs. That was something like um, like me and he was creative director. He's the CEO of Basic, and it was basically like in the beginning he was a part of it, and so like we would just go through all these like different designs and looking at breadcrumbs, and I wanted to put it center aligned, and he didn't want to put it center aligned because nobody had it, and so I had to like go out and look at all these different. It's like, who's doing center aligned breadcrumbs, and like I couldn't find anyone at that point, and so he eventually got on board with it because we had like the center aligned navigation, but there was also let's see if I can. This will be a test of my organization. If I can pull this up somewhat quickly. I've had an idea for e-commerce that I tried on Volcom back in the day. Oh, I must have scrapped all my explorations. That's kind of sad. Really? Oh, discovery. Oh, I did. Well, that's not my organization. It's just... Let me see if I can recreate it real fast. So it's for Volcom, and like one of the things I wanted to look at was like what role search had in like e-commerce type space or site, excuse me. Because there was one site at that point that had done it. I don't know when this was completed. This is 2016, so this is, oh my god. If you can't hear that notification, you're probably really confused right now. Here you go, desktop stream. So this is like one proposed navigation. The one thing I really wanted to do was like move search first and then have everything else off to the side. Not the right design for it, but basically like making it a search first site. And I still think this is a viable option. I don't know, like there's just so much pushback on it. Like part of me doesn't really understand why. And I think this is like one of those rules where it's, if there's like, if it's something that's really crucial to how the site functions, you're gonna have to really lean into like what is the standard, what are the general expectations of someone who comes to the site. And I think navigation is one of them. I think like where the search bar is, I think is one of them. And what role and what the hierarchy is of search and how you typically navigate websites is one of them. And for me, it was something like this. Like I wanted to kind of turn it on its head and just like make this a search first thing. Like let's invest in a search platform that's really robust. Let's give them the traditional avenues of product category pages, product landing pages, details, whatever. Like give them that route, but like let's lead with search. Like if you're looking for anything on the internet, what's the first thing you're doing? Is you're searching. Like to say people aren't used to searching is just really strange. And that may have been the search like CMS limitation. I can't remember. But things like that, you're gonna have to really kind of push hard for. And like I did, I made a case for it. I got laughed at for it, just like I got laughed at for the center line breadcrumbs. But I don't know. There's always like a moment to break the rules with stuff like that. It's like it might not always be the right time, but at least like looking at it, understanding like the pros and cons of it. Like oh, so you're talking more like font size and negative space. Well, then that was a pretty useless anecdote. But font size, like you know what, you're probably talking to the wrong person about that too. Like I love my little small fonts. I've got that feedback my entire career. I think at a point I was so tired of hearing it, I just made fonts bigger. I was like, I don't want to hear that shit anymore. Like, let's go. Let's make this easy reader. Um, which at the same time, like some of my long form stuff, like some of the product details, I think it's scaling, but it should be around like 16, 18 point font. Um, so font size in general, like if you have something that's really utilitarian and like you really need to convey that information, you kind of need to side with caution. You can't really break those rules. Also, knowing your audience is super important. Like for me, I think people who are coming to my site and downloading a screensaver, I think they're probably younger demographic. Um, and also thinking about font sizes through the lens of like, do I really need people to read this? Not really. Do I want people to read it? Not really. Like some of this stuff, because I think the about, probably really candid, the about, the version history, um, any of these like FAQ type stuff I do, it's like, I want people to read that because I don't have the time to answer emails. Um, and like I really need people to understand this stuff because I put time into developing it, put time into writing it, so that's important. Negative space, I don't think there's any rules around that. I mean, you get into people who talk about viewports and folds and stuff like that. There's definitely some best practices there in terms of like make sure. I think the fold's kind of arbitrary, and whether it's really relevant or not. Um, I think to some capacity, accounting for it is important. Um, but space, I mean, again, if you're working e-commerce, you have to be um, very specific about it and calculated because a lot of it gets into like product density, like how many products are you showing in one viewport? Is that extra spacing really worth it? I don't know. Um, so I don't think there's any hard and fast rules about the spacing. Uh, it's always funny, like I think negative space scares a lot of people and a lot of like junior designers, and it scared me. Like I'm throwing myself in that same category. Like I still have the same problem leaning into it. Like even on like the grid view, like this was like an uncomfortable step about not maximizing screen real estate. It's like this feels weird. Although there's not a ton of negative space in here. You could argue I could create more vertical space in between it, but this is more utilitarian page. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that helps. Um, no, you're spot on about UX research part, like analysis and market. I showed your site to my teacher, UX expert. He told me it was horrible UX wise. I was about to get in a fight with him. Negative spacing haunts me. Same for grid view and basic layouts. Yeah, I mean UX expert you can kind of take with a grain of salt. It's not for everyone. Like this is again a portfolio at the end of the day. I feel like I've built in mechanisms for easy navigation. Um, I'm sure like they just look at this type and they're like, that's not readable. Um, I'd argue this whole system is pretty usable, but like I've let go of the fact that everyone's gonna like everything. I know people are gonna hate some things I do, no matter what it is. And it's taken me a while to get to this point, but like I don't care. I don't have the energy to expend on people not really liking it. So that's where like you kind of have to pick and choose your battles and really like you can't be all things to everyone is what I've found. Like you hear a lot of clients like you pick a brief or you pick a like a strategy, you pick like your demo that you're trying to apply to, and then you execute on that, but they're like, well, we're not talking to these people, and it's like you can't. That's the opposite. Like you don't want to talk to boomers who like don't know the fucking internet if you're trying to be like a cool streetwear brand, hypothetically. And then you get caught in this middle ground of like trying to appease everyone, and you're left with something that speaks to nobody. So that's like UX experts. Like, oh, you're probably hearing that. I think that's Ari. Sorry. Um, what was I saying? That's so easy. Like one little notification, I'm just like, huh, now there's two. Now I'm fucked. Yeah, it's like people who are like UX experts, if they want to look at this through the lens of like purely usability, like they're on the wrong website. Plain and simple. Like I think there's some nice usability things I've done, but wholesale clearly like it's in the like the awards voting as well. Like people voted it down for usability. And like, okay, it's portfolio at the end of the day. If it's more like an e-com site, okay, I'm definitely going to take that more seriously because that's typically optimized for user experience. All sorts of best practices baked in. Ari's going crazy now. Am I desktop streaming? Let's go back to Chrome. I forgot I was desktop. Let's see. So I just sent him a screenshot of it working. He said, funny to see, although it does actually scale and work on mobile. I said, yeah, I know, but I personally don't like WebGL on mobile. I use a phone to grab info quickly, so I preferred something different. There you go. So like even if, and I tend to agree, and it's all like, that's where like the desktop sort of use cases and mobile use cases, depending on the site as well, is something to consider. It was always like e-commerce. It's like, when are people on mobile going to e-commerce? And a lot of times it's when we found like a lot of people in store will look at their phone to try and do research on something. I don't know if that's still accurate. That was like circa 2017, like that. But yeah, for him, and for me, like actually going back to e-commerce, I've never purchased something on a mobile device to this day. No, that's not true. Amazon app. I was too lazy on the couch. I had things saved, but that's like one of the few I've actually created an account for. But if it's something like a sweatshirt or shoes or something like that, like I just never will buy on a mobile device. I'll do research, but and again for him and his portfolio, like he wanted people to be able to find information on it. They didn't really need to see the full experience, but yeah. Let me just respond to him real fast. Okay, where was it? Shit. Grid. Bad UX. Oh. Yeah, unless there's anything specific, I might just, well, I have to quit Photoshop. Don't know how well Lightroom's gonna do, but we will find out. Let's see if I can minimize this. Go. By the way, I actually bought the Pangram font starter kit. Nice. What's the verdict so far? It's pretty solid collection of fonts for 25 bucks. Yeah, I just love their mentality with it. Make tons of projects now. Yep. Go nuts. Now it's like, oh, having good fonts helps a lot. That's they have like a really diverse selection of fonts in there, so you have something for pretty much all usages. Nice. And I don't know if this is too much of a hard pivot going to photos. Like, again, like, this is one of those streams where there's not, like, I think I've bored people to death with the photo site and the Webflow thing from last time, so I'm trying to switch it up a little bit. Because Ari was trying to do some testing on the preloading, and he's like, send me 100 images. And since coming back to Lightroom, I only have 69 images updated. With like new edits, which actually I don't even think this is totally accurate, because I don't think this is actually correct. No, that might be updated. Yeah, that is. So I do have some of these I need to get through. Some of them are like close edits I've started. Yeah, some were like I just discovered new images going through my catalog in here. Some of these like I just can't totally commit to yet. Totally against it. Why I didn't like this one. The reds were kind of bugging me. So there's a lot of reds in the shadows now. Just kidding, there's nothing in there. What the? Trust me, I know what I'm doing here. There's a lot of reds in the shadows. I'm looking at the histogram up here, which clearly says the absolute opposite. But the problem is like I'm increasing the reds at like a value where there's not a lot. So I'm really only like that little bit over the 45 degrees. All I'm really adding red. It looks like a lot. I can definitely see it updating, but yeah, I don't know. I thought I knew what I was talking about. Oop. So I always like go back to these sliders from time to time. I don't know, these calibration tools are so powerful in terms of like being able to affect like the global color palette and in a way that feels like it's part of the image. And then, and so that's the difference for me between Lightroom and Capture One. It's like it's almost entirely that. I think I'm gonna call that good. Pretty happy. See, it's almost texture. I'll call it texture. So export. And so I marked it green, so now it's gone from the filtering of just the yellow. Do you ever use Photoshop to edit photos? I used to. I wonder if I can attribute, if I can change these. I don't care about lens. File type. I don't have any. Oh, all sorts of stuff. PSD. These are all Photoshop edits. They're all really old. I can't, no, there's no way. There's some funny stuff in here. It's always dangerous going into like uncharted waters with edits. I don't know what's in here. I don't take any crazy photos or anything, but whatever, sometimes. Is there a way to open in Photoshop? Go to collection, edit in Photoshop. Ah. Sure, edit a copy. Why not? See what happens. But like the amount of like crunchiness and shit that's going on in this image just makes me cringe a little bit. Yeah, I mean that's the original, apparently. Oh, nice, like the focus through there. Looks like there's something being applied to it. I think it's, I don't know what's going on. So I grew up, I started doing all my all my editing in Photoshop because I did the creative prints and services at Sony. It was all Photoshop. And so this is like the techniques that they basically taught me is like duplicate the first layer. This is like an HDR layer. This is something I will never do again. It's like what, filter other high pass? Yeah. And create a high pass just to add some like, it's basically like adding clarity. Is what I would equate it to. Used to do some levels apparently. Local edit, some curves, contrast, more curves for this, which is not good. So yeah, I used to do it, but just the problem is like this right here. Actually, I'm gonna make a point to delete all of these right now. The fact that each of these edits are this big is just insane to me. I cannot do this at scale. Goodbye. Empty trash. So thank you for the reminder. I actually need to go through and delete all these. This will really help with my, what's it called? My storage. Because I have everything backed up. I don't need to rattle on about that again, but yeah. So that file size, whereas I don't know what the file size is for, was it XMP or, there's another one, I can't think of the name. I don't know what it is. I guess it depends on, or not DMG, what is it? DME? I don't remember. But this is much more performant in my eyes. So I greatly prefer this route. And I think I can get better results. Yeah, no, I can't. If I spent the time, I could do better edits now in Photoshop. I'd be kind of curious, like what I could do if I just like, now that I'm not doing really terrible, ill-advised things, kind of what that would look like in a Photoshop edit, but not quite there at the moment. This is really bad. What happened here? Like walking up on the scene of like a train wreck. Oh bueno. This is one of those ones where it's like, well, you're a lost cause. It's time to start from scratch. Preset grain plus plus. So I used to have like all these presets of like, it was just very specifically at like overriding grain settings. Look at all these curve points. Ill advised. So with those, good old reset button. It's just, nope. Oh, I did add a new preset to my list, just as like a quick way, because like for me and my brand, if you want to call it that, all the photos I post through Photoshop or through like Instagram and stuff, I use my own filters and stories. And so I wanted something that I could just do quickly, like if I want to post a bunch, I have like a black and white sort of treatment that I can just throw on anything that I can just post really quick. And actually, it's decent for, it's like some Yosemite shots that I was using that with that I'm probably gonna keep. Because I'm looking at doing like stories now. So again, I think I cut myself off for like the third time. What is this? Are Ari didn't even have enough photos to stress test with. Where was I going with all this? This is like the reality I have to live with. Was it get 6 hours of sleep? It's my girlfriend tells me is the way to avoid. I guess there's like a sharp increase in dementia if you don't get X amount of hours of sleep. So get your sleep. Otherwise, this is the future you have to look forward to. Sorry, check a couple things. Super interesting too. Like the one thing, actually Ari posted about. It's like some story about like how you manage your social media presence, like how available you can be. And I think that's why I like streaming, is like I can make myself available, but like there's so many emails right now that I am just behind on. And there's a lot of people who have been asking me a lot of questions, and like I love all that stuff. I'm just I'm trying to figure out my bandwidth and what I can actually accommodate. And I don't want people to feel like I'm just not answering because I'm not interested. That's absolutely not the case. I want to help as many people as I can, but there are some realities with time. There's no more hood. So, yeah, if you sent me something, know that I've seen it. It's in a queue. There's tons of like like work opportunity stuff right now that I haven't even responded to. I don't know if I guess I can say it doesn't matter. There's like an awards class that I think I'm agreed to doing, but it takes me 6 days to respond to an email, so not much has gotten done. I don't know. It's just like when I'm just kind of obsessed with working and like being productive, and it's hard like when I get like work emails. Like I don't really want to take on clients at the end of the day, which is, maybe I'm saying the quiet parts out loud, I don't know, but I'd love just to just create. I need like help from someone. I always get these backwards. What am I trying to do? Reset. I always reverse it, right? Oh, I can't. So that's something I'm finding now is like, I think I've flown under the radar for a long time. Not really wanting attention, not really getting it regardless, probably not even meriting it for the longest time. I don't know if I merit it now. I'm just like, I'm being more vocal, which means I have some people coming back, and yeah, it's just really hard. I'm trying to manage all my time, something new, but all good problems at the end of the day, all good. I just hope people understand, like, you don't hear from me and then they see me on stream or they see me on Instagram or something. Like, I'm not opting, like, it's not like I don't want to respond, it's just there's other things on my mind at the moment. I know that's probably a tough sell. Probably sounds like a cop-out. Okay. Not everyone has to believe me. Doing here. With the photo. That wasn't like an existential question out of nowhere. I don't know what the vibe, like, I always go too blue with this one. I'm like, there it is right there again. How do you neutralize it? It just feels bad. This is just too heavy. This is too light. That's what I was trying to do with this gradient, was to just like even it out a little bit. I think it's just the natural lighting of it. And that's the full crop too. If I crop that out, crop some of this lower stuff out. Because really the most interest is up here. Yeah, it's just like the balance feels wrong. I mean, just watching your stream is kind of like a free awards class. That's, I mean, I don't know how that's gonna. Mine probably won't sell well, and that's okay. Like, um, I'd rather give it away for free. Like, do it this way. 'Cause I think it's like being presumptuous that I'm gonna hit on all the right things when I do that class, and it's probably not. Like here, we can have like a dialogue and you can ask questions contextually. Like in those classes, like you can't ask questions. I mean, I guess you could try and email me after, but just considering the conversation, the stuff I was just talking about, you might not have the best luck. That's why I don't know. That's why I see so much like potential in streaming. Like it solves a lot of these problems I have of like, and now like with this awards class, like if I'm gonna do it, I have to create all this content. That's time away from actually working. Do I really want to do that? So that's why like every day, every time I get an email, it's like 5 days in between. So I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this. Like, what is my thinking here? That's probably something might become clear. So I can just, I will say the quiet parts out loud. Like not to say that I'm like bold and ballsy. It's just like I just don't have a filter sometimes, and I don't realize what I'm saying sometimes. I never have regrets about it. It's just like I always get told like maybe you should have a little more like, what's the word? Not tact. Maybe it is tact at the end of the day. I don't know. Is that it sucks? What am I doing? Start over. Or maybe this just isn't it for me today. Come back to this one. Maybe photos aren't even my thing today. See, this is like that black and white. Yeah, if I just get rid of this little guy here. I mean, it is funny. I do have like the multi-chat up now so I can see how many people are here. Like I go on these little asides and just like, everyone just bounces. It's okay. Or I get into photos. It's really interesting, like the balance of photo to design. Someone subscribe. Yes, my default NY Killer. My default notifications are still here. Maybe that's what I should work on today. That might be a bad idea. Is this still yellow? I should finish this. I need to start like checking these off. It's like, you know what? It may not be perfect. A little chunky in the low end, but what are you gonna do? Oh shit. Holy shit. What is going on here? Wow. I don't know if I just got raided or something. Shoot, I brought you some more photo fam. Sweet. Dude, thank you. Yeah, I just switched over. I was rambling on about design for a little bit, but yeah, I was thinking about, so I just switched back from Capture One to Lightroom, a move I was not proud of, but I have to redo a bunch of old edits because I did all this catalog in Lightroom, redid it in Capture One, realized I didn't like Capture One as much, so now I'm back fixing some of this stuff. So some I'm starting from scratch, some I'm I don't know, just modifying a couple things, like going a little hard on clarity. So yeah, and like if you're just here for the first time, like I think I'm 30 streams in right now. My stream deck decided to shit the bed, so that's going for me. But yeah, thank you again, Shu, for for the raid. And for everyone who's new, welcome. I just ended another photograph stream. All these folks do the shoot type. Oh, shooty pics work? I'm not familiar with that. As you'll also probably learn, is like woefully oblivious to a lot of things. So, yeah, I just kind of dig my head in the sand and just do random photo work. So people who are new, maybe this is a good time to do a shameless plug, or is this the fastest way to lose people? If you do like any of these, I have a free screensaver for Mac and free TV app. It basically pulls from a repository of images that I'm working on right now. So all of these get uploaded to an S3 bucket, and then so they're dynamically pushed out. So right now I think there's about 400 or so images across all categories. So those are available. I should put this in the chat. Let me do. I'm just learning about like, oh shit, this is not going to be. So I'm multi-streaming on YouTube and Twitch. So I think people on YouTube are probably really confused right now. I don't know if that's going to go out to Twitch, but you know, rookie streamer, can't help it. But yeah, let me get caught up here. Oh, he's saying we're photographers. So I am not a photographer. So by trade, I'm a like designer, art director, whatever you want to call me. I'm kind of trying to do everything. I'm trying to get into like video. I've been dabbling in like DaVinci Resolve and doing color grading. Yeah, the shooty pick people. It should have been really obvious, but I'm kind of dense sometimes too. I think I'm fresh out of coffee too. What camera are you using? So I use a Sony A7R III. I've kind of like got my head out of the like the gear game. I've seen like the new Sony Alpha, so the Alpha 1 came out. I don't really know where all the benefits are. I had the R2 and the batteries were just trash. Like I had 6 batteries I was carrying with me at all times. But now with the R3, the better battery life, the better continuous shooting, because I do a lot of like water photography. So that's been meaningful upgrades. I don't know as I'm getting into video if they're upgrading to like 4, like more of like the video 4K abilities, but yeah, I probably should. I'm tuned back in on that. We may also plug the photography community at large on Twitch. We've done a lot of work to unite the greater community under one banner. Yeah, of course, man. Dude, I'm brand new to this, so I don't know what I don't know at this point. So I didn't even know, like, the one thing that kind of bugs me about Twitch is like you can't even, I guess you have to put it under art. I don't see like a photography category on Twitch, which is kind of a bummer. And I'm just realizing, like, everyone who's on YouTube, like, if you want to go to the Twitch channel, this might make a lot more sense in terms of like actually talking about things. I shoot R5, R4 here. There's an R5? Holy shit. There's no official photography channel. Okay, so I'm not missing it, which is good. I thought I was like, I kept on like typing it in to, like, to whatever the channel. It's like there's gotta be photography, but it's always like you look at their categorization is just really strange. I just don't understand it if I'm being entirely honest. It seems very narrow in terms of like how they approach it. I don't know if this is. Oh well, I got lens flare. Maybe that's not the image. But I'm stoked to hear that there's a photo community. Like, I'm all about building a community. That's kind of like, it's been interesting. Like, to this point, most of my design has been what's kind of gotten traction and people have been interested in. from Instagram, people wanted to get a lot of, they had a lot of questions about techniques. So I was like, all right, shit, I'll live stream some of this stuff and just like basically give it all away. Then everyone's like bouncing out when it comes to like, even just before I got rated, like it was just like drying up because people, I was talking about the Webflow site development I was doing. And yeah, like everyone just bounced. I was probably like rambling on about some other stuff. Oh, the Canon equals R5. Got it. Yeah, I'm just like gonna have to bear with me. I just stopped. So I got all the I have like pretty much the whole line is like GM lenses from Sony. It's like the Grandmaster, or maybe it's just G Master. I don't know. But it's all zoom lenses. I have the 16 to 35, 24 to 70, 70 to 200, and 200 to 400. There's like that 600 prime, which is like 10 grand. And I just have to like not fucking look. Because I went pretty much broke buying all these lenses. So I don't, it's like if I dig my head in the sand and don't realize it, I should be alright. See, this one's better. It doesn't have the lens flare, it has less of this. I just wish this wasn't there. Like part of me wants to take that out, but I don't know if the layout is interesting. Framing's better. You know what? Let's see. I don't want it. I don't know. I just see all these ones that like bother me. All these edits are like half done. Other art you're fine. You added the photography tag, which is how I found you to rate. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I was looking at that earlier, and I like most of the times there's like 3 or 4 tags I put in, but I only found 2. But yeah. But hey, shoot, thanks again for the raid. Enjoy lunch. Yeah, and like I'm looking forward to kind of further growing the photography community on Twitch, because I think I don't know, it's really interesting to see people's behind the scenes. I've seen a couple people. It's been more design though, if I'm being entirely honest. And I think photo's better for this kind of thing. With design, it's like tilting the hand at like all sorts of things that you can't necessarily go be super upfront about. Apparently I exported this. Let's see. I don't see any problems with this. So I use my color taggings of like green, yellow. Green's good to go. Yellow's, it's basically a stoplight. That's the really sophisticated system I use for identifying. And then if you're wondering about why I'm using tags in the caption here, so this is for, it's for that the screensaver and the TV app. They're all in that bucket, but they all leverage well, it's actually only the screensaver because you can't do it in the TV app. But there's, pull it up. It's not gonna work. I'm just being lazy. So it is, that's how, I just see an icon and I just jumped to it. So screensaver. So there's all these different categories, and so these are all determined by what, basically what metas, or what is included in the file name. So if I put it in the caption, my export settings have the caption included in the file name. So that's my way of amending. So every time I export, I just put it here, it's already in, and this will show up. Proper categories. All this stuff is just like doing this at scale. Anytime I can remove barriers and make things as easy as possible by just adding like a little brick system, I'm a happy boy. So I don't know if this is, I don't see it here. What's the file name? 0850. This is the other problem. So I was trying to create, also green tags means it's been posted. Some of these that are not tagged, like I'm having ambivalence about how much like negative dehaze there is. So some of these are okay. I just like, some of these edits I just need to like a minute to look at. And it's like, is this really the right one? Because I don't have like a clear, like this is exactly how it needs to be. That one, that's for something else. But yeah, I don't see this anywhere. Well, I guess ultimately will tell me. Yeah, doing these kind of edits like has taken me a long time. Getting comfortable with like leaning that hard on one side or the other. It's always felt imbalanced. Like, I don't know. There's certain things you can tell. Like I used to do it by unsavory methods, by using like global temperature control. But I've come to see that like I should really be using the color grading tools so more or less neutral with the color temperature. Although I might eat my own words here and see that it's not that. Yeah, so it's cooler, and I'm not really mad about this without the color grading on top of it. I think it just adds like an additional boldness. I don't know. And yeah, if you're new to my work, like I try and do more. I've gotten to a point where it's more like emotive than it is. Emotion over information is kind of how I come to. That's like the lens that I look at all my work through. It's like priority one's emotion, priority two is information. When before, like I could probably pull up some old edits, which were just like the white balance was like dead white. There was like never any imbalance there. It was the full, like I try and max out the histogram. It was just, it's a style. It's just not where I've come to land at this point. So export this one. Lots of dark images going up. Let's see. Stay on theme. Stairs. So some of these like yellow ones have been just really problematic. I try and pick off ones that I know are like they're close to being done. I thought this was all the grain settings. So I've modified my grain settings through the years. Yeah. The grain settings have changed. Clarity and dehaze I've moved to negative at this point. I don't know if I this one. Yeah, I did, clearly. I was doing some unadvisable things with the curves panel, but I feel like you can see the dehaze or negative clarity. It's in those moments of like clear lines. It starts ghosting. Not really. I think it's just the image. I don't know. Sometimes with like water on the port, kind of get some odd, like it's like ghosting, almost in some ways. It can be really nice. Like it's some of my favorite images have this ghosting effect on top of it, but it's like impossible to control. Most of the time, it ruins shots, but. If you haven't done water photography, like 3/4 of it is just tired. It's 3/4 entirely luck. You can quote me on that. Wise wisdom. So mark that green. At least it's not all sad, dark images. This image. I'm gonna leave it for now, just so I know, because a lot of times I'll just forget, and like how these are all being added in here is just at random. I just go through the catalog, find images. But again, like with the photo site coming, I need to have all my favorite images updated. This is one where it's like the negative clarity is maybe problematic. It just seems muddy. Like it definitely gets it soft, but it may be like traversing into that like muddy category. The other one definitely is. The one like down the valley. This one. This is probably overdoing it. So that is achieved from radio. This guy, yeah, lots of really soft. Local masks on this one, and I'm just opening up to the idea of local masks. For the longest time, I've been sort of anti, thinking that you're really kind of messing with the moment a little bit, but I don't want to embellish, and I don't want to make things like, I don't want to get into the business of adding like God rays and all sorts of crazy shit like that. I want to be fairly honest to the moment, but sometimes I can kind of, nudge it along a little bit. There's that one documentary on Netflix. I can't remember the guy's name. It's like Stanislav. It's like the Polish guy. He's living in like random LA area. He's like one of the greatest sculptors like ever, and he was just like living in. I think it's funny. He called Southern California. What was the words he used? It's like cultural Siberia is Southern California, which I am not going to disagree with as a resident of Southern California. But he was just doing all this crazy work, and like he made the point of like, what's the point of doing work if you're like creating art if you're not going to like enhance it or put some your own stylistic elements into it. He had a better quote. I'm paraphrasing terribly. But yeah, that kind of gave me like the idea of like maybe it is all right to kind of like enhance things a little bit more. Maybe it doesn't have to be so 100%. I don't want it obvious though. That's the line I will never cross. Like if you look at it immediately like that's Photoshop, like I fucked up. Which there probably are, like undoubtedly. As like I keep on like going back and refining things. I'm slowly learning about different techniques that become more obvious. And again, like maybe the untrained eye, like my mom who's looking at all my photos, she's probably not going to see the nuance in some of the edits I'm doing, and like maybe she can't see the difference between beginning and end. But yeah, should it be so moody and dark? I have a personal bias. So for me, like someone who really likes emotion in images, I've always kind of felt that darker images were really more I don't know if it's easier to convey emotion, but they just inherently have more emotion to it. There's immediately like a vibe to it. I don't think everything has to be dark. I think things that are like on what I remember as like cold days, or if it's like an overcast day, I'll absolutely lean into that. I don't think everything should be dark. Like I try and lean into the moment. There's like some stuff from the desert. I can find it if I've updated here. Where it's like almost getting into the realm of like overexposure. Where would that be? Southwest? When was this trip? Oh no, it was, where was it? Oh, dang need to figure this out. I should probably add some of these. I like some of these like bright desert days. Oh, these are all old edits. No, it's not. It's like properly leaning into like the overexposed element to it. So I think I'm just prone to shoot darker as a personal bias, and then I prefer moments that are kind of darker. I clearly shot a lot this day. I thought I had some that were in here. Some people have monitors set too bright that deliver darker images. I was wondering if that was the case with you. It's not cool. Yeah, it's definitely a stylistic choice. And I've I've had plenty of issues with my display. I've calibrated it. I'm still having problems with prints, and it's yeah. So I use, what is it, like the spider calibration? Yeah, Spider X Elite. This guy. And which, sadly, I haven't spent the time to fully understand. So, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I did the reading, it modified the color temperature slightly. And so I have an XDR display, and I always, like, I got it for color accuracy. So I would just like, all right, I know Apple's going to calibrate this thing, because before I used to do everything on like Thunderbolt display, like the old 27-inch Thunderbolt Apple displays, and the color accuracy was something I was really happy with. And so I figured like the XDR is like, that's going to be the same, but they're just going to maybe be more on top of it, which it is better. They have, where is it? Displays. So, ooh. I don't know if I'm just freaking out or something, but so they have all these different presets of like, or different profiles that you can just sort of lock onto. And what's nice about this is that it's fixed brightness. So if I try and adjust it, it's locked. So it's holding it at a certain point. So it's P3 color space, and D65 is my understanding it's like a certain brightness level. Or it could be, I don't know. At the same time, I'm trying to think if it was also like the white balance level it sets it at. But I don't exactly know how this commingles with the screen calibration I did. So I had an issue with the print coming back too dark, and I had to fully reprint it, which was not enjoyable because it was late. But yeah. So and it's probably why, like, I mean, for me, photography's always been just like a fun thing for me to do. I've never had to really worry about people really wanting to buy my work, which maybe I should, arguably. Sorry, just looking at this. I haven't seen some of these for a minute. This one. So yeah, like doing dark images like that's not super common. So I don't blame you for thinking it was a calibration error on my part. But yeah, those are willing decisions to go that dark. But like, I think to the opposite, like at this image, I think this is one that will loan itself to kind of overexposing a little bit. And so in general, like what I do when I shoot is I typically like shoot down a stop, sometimes two, depending on the scene, like how much I'm pointing towards the sun. I will kind of mess with that, but I found like a stop down is safe, because again with digital, it is like once you have blowouts, it's gone. My understanding is I don't shoot much film, is it's the opposite with film. Is like you overexpose because it's easier to recover highlights, but on digital it's easier to recover shadows. So And again, like if you have a blowout, like you're just stuck with that. So a lot of times, like if I have a blown out images, I'll just lean into it and blow out more of the image, so it kind of like smoothly, like is a gradation um, to the rest of the image. But that's kind of like worst case scenario doing damage control. Like if there's a strong enough image that I like, um, I will try to do it. I just calibrate my eye and check if the color gradient looks right. But I have two budget monitors, so I'm not waiting for them to be super accurate. If it looks right, I'm good. Yeah, I think that's like at the end of the day, like depending where your images live, it's going out in every sort of color calibration, every sort of display. Like it's just you run into a point where um, like you really just have to let go of control, and that really became apparent when I got into DaVinci Resolve and working with all these color space transforms. Um, it was just like even on my screen, like the same thing was looking different in two different applications. So it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Because some of it was like P3 apparently, like VLC is like the most authentic when it comes to that stuff. And I was trying to do like still edits in DaVinci. That was like a whole thing. That was yeah, these like DRX files. She processed. Yeah, so these are images like done in DaVinci. The whole idea of doing some like film emulation. I love the softness that you can create in DaVinci. I love the halation that you can add to it, but ultimately the trade-off wasn't there. But yeah, like going back to that, I think like as long as it looks good on your own display, like that's kind of the ultimate factor. Like as long as they look right for you, and like close, like as long as you're not like going crazy with your calibration one way or the other, I think it'd be good. Or even if you don't touch it, like the factory calibrations are usually pretty good. But it's not something you have to like worry a ton about typically. Like some people love to get super scientific about it, and they like, I don't know. Ultimately, like the amount of control it's like an illusion of control in some ways. You're just really not gonna be able to do much about it. So I kind of just gave in, just threw in the towels. Like, you know what? Like, my calibration isn't terrible. It's maybe not perfect. People might see it slightly different. I've talked about it on here too, of like even just testing the images on my TV with the TV app. It's like how that renders it. It's really interesting. How it renders grain, how it renders color, how it renders like saturation. It's all different. And it's really sad. Because I see it and like I know what it should be, and I see it, I'm like, oh shit, like that's not even close. Midtones are too much, actually. I don't know why, but I've kind of liked the idea of like even on like such a basic, like a warm image, and the highlights adding a lot of blue to kind of neutralize and offset it. I don't know. Chances are, like once I get into the master, I'll just override it and do the exact opposite again. But part of the process. So with these, like I don't really have a firm plan. I'm just kind of taking laps. And for this, I really need to like invest in the balance. I feel like balance should be up top. So you set the balance based on the image first, and then you go the rest of them. But kind of get why it's that way. You don't really need to touch it. But that's the like I just found out like the balance tool is exactly what I was wishing DaVinci Resolve would do. With like if you have a dark image, and I think it was mostly like how these sliders worked, like highlight shadows, like it was always on a relative, um, it was relative to the entire like histogram. So like just the way that's black shadows, exposure, highlights, whites, um, like you could adjust it. So it's like if it's a dark image, like those become more useful. Um, which I really like all these things that they've added since I left Lightroom. Was a lot of this sort of adjustability in terms of like setting scale, like where each of these points actually are. Just in the same way with like balance and the color grading is super valuable. Usually when I calibrate, open a color picker in Photoshop in sRGB space document and try different hue gradients. I'm on Windows, so it has such a color picker, and if I don't see any wacky colors in the gradients, I'm good. Yeah, there you go, man. I don't see much wrong with that. And then black to white gradient. Yep. Yeah, there you go, man. I mean, it sounds like you got a system for it. That all makes sense to me. That's more effort than I've put into mine, sadly. I thought getting the calibrator was going to be the be-all, end-all, but it's really not. Some of these colors in here look kind of weird. I don't know what the value is. A lot of red. Strange. There. So this is what I've come to learn curves is most valuable for. We can see, yeah, like I don't really need to do that. I always I wish like you just could use your standard cursor and it would show up there. I don't know if there is a way to do it, if there's any modifier key. And this is mostly why I left Lightroom in the beginning, is like Capture One, you can expand. You used to be able to expand the curves panel as big as you ever wanted, but now they limit it for some reason. I don't know why. Right now, I just want to knock down the reds and the shadows just a touch. That might do too much. I actually kind of like it more in general without that. So yeah, like I've gone back and forth in terms of like what the order is. Like what is the actual order of operations? Like is it applying tone curves first? And I have to think color grading on top of it. It was more of an issue, and then also like where does the HSL process in that layer? Like if I'm adding blues in the shadows and I suddenly like bump saturation of blues, is that gonna bump the saturation of the color grade? I hope not. I would think the color grade's the last thing, but I don't really know. Let's see. I like your colors. I love the noise in your site. Looks great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I try and do like kind of non-traditional colors. Like the more I kind of understand it, I try and push out a little bit more and do just different combinations. I think I have like my tendencies that I always kind of skew to. But oh, yeah, it's too much. Yeah, glad you like it. And the sites, so I'm not a developer, but I built that using Webflow. And some of my other streams, I'll do like development streams, talk about like the design process. Because again, photos kind of like it's my creative outlet where I don't really get, photography's a money pit. I wish I was full-time photo. I don't quite have the personality to cut it. Can't point my camera at people. I mean, I can, but I'm really uncomfortable doing it. So that's kind of a problem. this is just like a hobby for me. So I predominantly do design. Started developing. I just kind of do whatever. Um, but it's all fun. I'm a very Photoshop guy. I make the pic look clean in Lightroom and then go fix everything in Photoshop. Yeah, I used to be fully Photoshop. Um, it's just doing it at scale is something that got really hard. Because when I do edit in Photoshop, I like to do non-destructive editing. And that, like, for these images, I mean, I don't know how. I keep on forgetting. Yeah. Almost 8,000 by 5,400. It's kind of big. I think I was looking at it earlier. I was modifying an old edit. I think I found a couple Photoshop files in here. It was something like 500 megs for one edit. Like, that's... Can't do it. I was saying, like, I'd be curious to see what I could get when it comes to like what the result would be, because I think undoubtedly Photoshop's more powerful. You can do everything here, and you can be this and more, plus more control of layers. Like, I don't know. I wish there was more scalability. I wish there was better layer control in this, but the trade-off, this is kind of the best bet. You would make some cool LUTs. Thank you. Don't have any at the moment. I was thinking about giving away some like default stuff. Like I have my JW.S default. It basically sets a lot of these points. So if I go out to, let's say this guy. Actually, this needs to go in the selects Terra. Kind of incidental. A lot more incidental in Terra. This had an old edit. Wow, see this is like my older style of it being more chunky. I reset. So I have this default, which basically because I shoot down a stop, it adds some exposure. I always like to reduce the contrast and kind of control it through other methods. It adds all these points across all the different tonal curves. Doesn't really mess with anything else, I don't think. Oh, it sets grain consistently. Does little lens corrections. So it's kind of like just base level stuff. I just like that it's accounted for and I don't have to really think too much about it. But yeah, I thought about it. Like it's always interesting with what's his name? Miguel Santana? I think. He's doing like the whole Spectra thing, color, like film emulation. He's taken that really far. It's going great. I don't think I want to go that far, but I don't know, maybe there's some like initial LUTs I could sell. I'm thinking about that for sure. Make yourself comfortable when shooting people. Spread your legs as much as you can. That's one way to do it for sure. Yeah, just gotta remove the barriers. Let it all hang out, so to speak. See, I'm getting like weird green colors. I don't know if this is the color grade I put there. Oh, see, I don't even mess with the shadows on this. That's right, I think I'm picking up green. This color just... why it bugs me so much. It just feels oversaturated. I toned it down a little bit. Yeah, that's better. No, yeah, I can't push that too far. I want red dings. I mean, like this feels kind of true to the moment. leaning into the. I mean, I did shoot down a stop, so I do have to always kind of compensate for that. One thing I will do sometimes, I don't really copy and paste edits very much, but if there's something I'm just sort of struggling with, I'll have to reset. This is the same day, similar lighting. Like I'm kind of curious to see, and so it doesn't pan out at all. It kind of does a bit of exposure, right? God, those sounds are loud. It's been a whole thing. Like, so if you're just following now, thank you again for following. I just got the alert box set up. I had some like Diddy gifts and shit like that, but apparently it just reverts to the zombie for some reason. So I'm figuring that one out. But yeah, I'm 30 streams in. It's gonna be rough around the edges for sure. But thank you to everyone who's here. And again, like in general, like if I'm working on something, so I do photo design, whatever. Something to pivot to. Definitely don't feel shy about asking about anything. Like these are kind of work sessions that are. I have a tentative goal, like some things I want to at least do during that time. But if it ends up taking me somewhere else, like I'm all good with it. I don't like following right away. I don't blame you. You gotta know what you're following. And if you, like, I mean, if you came in with the raid, I'll be like, what the fuck did I just go into? So, I don't blame you. I encourage that. Diligence. Work. Some of these. This one has always struck me as problematic, purely based off of the how blue these shadows are. Like looking at the histogram, it's like 80% blue, and I've heard mixed things in terms of like, oh, that's just this, like Sony sensors are more prone for blue. I don't know, maybe. But that's kind of why, like, one of the first things that's always built into all my images is just like microscopically just raising the shadows a bit on the reds. That kind of helps neutralize it, but you can see it's still not doing enough. This is still 75% blue. So this might just need broader kind of adjustments. How are you about backseat watching? Sometimes I can't help myself and shoot suggestions. Backseat watching? Meaning, like commentary? Sorry, all these terms, I'm just like, maybe I'm a fucking boomer, I don't know it. I'm like the youngest boomer ever. But it's like, it's not a new phenomenon for me. Rising should be center. Train line. So because you can't have these, you can't have like guides in Lightroom. At least not that I know of. Prop guide overlay. Guides. Shit. Holy shit. How do I hold command for options? How do you turn guides on? Upright. Guided upright. Yeah, like backseat driving when someone who's not behind the wheel is telling the driver what to do. I don't mind. I mean, I'm open to, like, so if it's, how the fuck do I get rid of this now? Fuck. I'm open to input for sure at all times. I'm always curious to hear if someone's got a different take on something. Um, if someone's just sort of like, nah, that sucks. Um, unless there's something to back it up, I'm kind of not interested. Like if people are like, oh, like maybe try this, like yeah, like I'll either like explain why I don't think I want to go that way or give it a shot. Yeah, how the fuck do I get to tell you that? Shortcut for this? Why not? Guys. This one, the Stream Deck will be nice. So yeah, like if you're also new, I have Stream Deck mapped to. I don't have it for Lightroom yet. I had it for Capture One, for Sketch, for Photoshop. I started DaVinci Resolve, and it just makes all these like deeper tools like way more accessible. And I can never remember all the key commands for them. Yes. Let's see. Some more people can't stand it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not a like to me. I'm not here because I have all the answers figured out. I don't think I've got a lot of experience to lean on, and so I feel confident enough to either like push back on something um, or at least try something new and like be comfortable with the idea that someone might have a better idea than me. Like that's gonna happen all the time. And someone might like if specifically like photo editing, someone might come in and just be like, maybe try this. It's like, oh shit, like I'm so hardwired in this line that like I never would have made the leap to try something different. Um, so I welcome that kind of stuff. It's just like if I push back on it, I don't know. I've done some pushing back in my day, more when it comes to design, and like some people mistake that for like hard-headedness if I don't see things their way, but I think that's the beauty. Like for photo specifically, like it's art at the end of the day. It's not design. It doesn't need to convert. It doesn't need to like have a low click-through rate. Like either people like it or they don't, and that's kind of the beauty of it. So there are no right answers. Like it's all subjective. It's mostly subjective with photos. I think there's some like technique stuff that is more like black and white. Like this is the right way to do it. This is the wrong way to do it. But yeah, like design. Like I love being wrong because then I'm learning something. But I feel like because I've been doing this for 13 years or whatever it is now, I've got a pretty well-informed opinion on things, just based purely off of experience and hours spent. But that doesn't mean like I've had like junior level like project managers give me ideas I just never would have thought of. It was like there's no good way to say it. I don't know what the right there must be a better way to say it, but it's based in like being naive and not being. It's like a fresh perspective because it's not like bottlenecked in by a lot of like preconceived notions. The only way I can think to describe it is like being stupid smart, where it's like, but stupid is not the right word. That's why I hesitate to use that. It's definitely not stupid. It's just a lack of context, a lack of like knowing all the things that everyone else does, and maybe those knowing those things is like pushing everyone in like a very specific direction. But if you don't, you know, you have that freedom to kind of operate outside the bounds of that. Is really what I'm trying to say. And this edit is not coming together. I've done much better ones in the past. Still needs more exposure, I feel like. these highlights down. It's like almost removing all like the low end. Starts to feel better. If you run to Lightroom, you can get some MIDI controller and use it to control Lightroom. Yeah, actually, I have. What is it? MK. What is it? I think it might be open still. Is it MK? Lightroom. I had it. I think it's you can try and post a link. I don't know if it's gonna work. I think I have to make people mods to post links. I don't know about Twitch. I know with YouTube, it was not something that would ever work. Right now, I'm just trying to knock out the blues here. Like this specifically just drives me nuts. It's right in there, so I'm gonna just shift it. That might be too much. Yeah, it's like too much blues lost through everywhere else. This is where it might be better for like a local edit. You can see like it's just too yellow through here. It needs some of that. I think this will also really benefit from like upping the reds and the shadows. How about that one? I think gives that like exposed, like I always think of like expired film sort of look. And even like reducing the reds kind of brings out like blue. Well, links did work. Ooh, I should close Photoshop and Sketch. Apparently my Stream Deck just shut down. Let me pull up this link. I think this is the one. I think this is exactly the article I was looking at. Yeah, this one. So this was actually just crashing on me not too long ago. I don't know why. It's great, like when it works in theory, but there was some times where like it just wasn't giving feedback. See, if I grab, because I have this little guy, so I do a little like music production, very, very, very novice. Intro song, something I just did quickly. I want to see if this works. So I mapped it, so I wonder if I have to restart Lightroom. A photographer suggested that he did buy it and was super happy about it. Wait, is there a paid version of this? I thought this was all like freeware. Could be wrong, but this is another one of those where it's like, if this really works, like it should, then I'm all for paying to support for the development of it. Yeah, so I have my basic like temperature, tint, exposure. So it's like using so you can see there's like huge latency. Now it's better. Go back. Yeah. So right now, like if I'm gonna start turning the dial, I think this is 10, this is contrast. So I'll start turning it now. Then it's okay. Before, like, it wouldn't even register, and it became this like really painful thing to always wait for it to update. And then I'd have to like crazy turn the dials both directions for it to even activate. But yeah, like having like the smooth dials is fucking sweet. Photo rate, holy shit. What's going on here? Welcome to everyone. I don't know who rated. Thank you. I don't have any of my notifications set up, so I think they unknowingly rated someone who is a extremely rookie streamer. I'm sure the shitty mic is an indication of that. You'll see any sort of notifications are all default. There you go. And thank you to everyone who follows. Really appreciate it. I'm just going through some edits right now for my screensaver and TV app. Again, thank you. Oh, Photography Elite. Thank you for the raid. Much appreciated. Yeah, appreciate everyone sticking around. Love me some photo edits. Well, we're in the right place today. I do a lot of design. I'm kind of 50-50 split. I'm still trying to figure out like how I separate the two, whether I do like fully dedicated photo streams, fully dedicated design streams. But today it is, I did some design earlier, but it's mostly photos. So some of these, like coming back from Capture One to Lightroom, I have to redo a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And if you have any questions related or unrelated to whatever I'm doing at the moment, like definitely lob them over. But it's rad to see that there's like this much of a photo community on Twitch. Like I was doing my homework on streamers and play a little Call of Duty here and there. So like, well, why don't I look at that? And that gave me a very narrow window on like what is here. I hear about like hot tub streams and all this stuff. It's like, I don't know what to make of it. So I have a very biased perspective on a lot of things here. So if I'm unaware, or what's the best way to call it? And me just realizing I'm saying this, like talking about my like cluelessness again twice in one stream is kind of a bad sign. Oh, Il Guy rated. Well, thank you, Il Guy. Much appreciated. Yeah, Shu rated earlier. Bringing more people, more photo people on Twitch. Let's go. Do I take clients? I do not take clients. I've thought about it. So design's kind of my day-to-day, like that's how I make a living sort of thing. And photo is always like, this is my out, because I was doing a lot of like e-commerce site design. It was just like, this is soul crushing. So what can I do that's like creatively satisfying? And well, it's where no one can tell me what to do at the end of the day. So I've like grappled with it. Like, how do I make money with it? I tried selling prints, because then that's again like on my own terms. Everyone loves to buy prints until it actually comes down to buying prints. That's my experience. People have been very supportive, but it's like prints are kind of a tall ask. Like having people have the wall space, framing is expensive, matting is expensive, prints themselves are kind of expensive. So yeah, I'm like trying to find ways to commercialize it a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty like a hobby for now. If you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, appreciate it. I'll definitely, I definitely, possibly, absolutely will take you up on that. Been at it for a year? Yeah, you're way ahead of me, man. This is stream 30, I think. And I just started doing multi-streaming to Twitch and YouTube. I think this is like my 6th or 7th stream on YouTube. Or no, on Twitch. So I just see so much more potential in Twitch. Like, I think I'm gonna move off of YouTube for streams at some point, just because the community aspect in Twitch is so much stronger. So And this is like this kind of happening today is just giving me more and more confidence that that's the right decision to go, or right direction to go. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to. Also, not used to actually having a chat to go through. This is. I've done so many streams with like nobody here, and the whole idea was like DVR content. So I'm kind of shifting now that people are showing up. So again, bear with me. My question is it rigged? It's what rigged? What's going on here? Yeah, man, I did prints of my work to put on my wall, and it was about like $300 from Walgreens. Yeah, it's not cheap, and like the biggest thing that gets me, like for prints, is like it's the glass. It's like I got upsold on museum glass. It's like, and because I didn't want to do anything that messed with the integrity of the image by doing like, I don't know, there's like canvas you can do and all these different materials that start like impacting how you see things. And I never really wanted to dabble in that. Like, oh, all right, shit. It's like, let's go with museum glass. Not knowing how fucking expensive that is. And then when you try and turn around and sell like something like that, it's like, well, suddenly your price or your margins just went to shit. So not cheap. The whole community of 800 plus people all interested in photography collected in this one place. It's the Twitch photography team. There are currently about 90 streamers on the team, all dedicated to photography and videography. That is rad. That's something like I really want to dive into and kind of like get to know better. Yeah, I mean, I figured there was like such a gap, at least from an outside looking in. I know like Behance has their own live streams that they do, but that was kind of an edge. They had some kind of questionable stuff on there, but I never saw it at scale. But I knew like people had to be out here doing it. Very hard to find someone streaming on YouTube. Yeah, that's what I've come to understand. I mean, even just like these 2 raids today, and some of the organic growth I've seen, like checking in on the channel between streams, it's been way more growth than I've seen on YouTube. I think YouTube, I've just been plugging it, and so there's been other things going on with like launching a new website, posting it on my Instagram. Like it was all pushing towards YouTube, which I think is great because I think I want to do like more direct, a more direct sort of like technical videos. Like if you want to search like this, like how to do cinematic color grading or something like that. Like it's not like, hey, here's 5 hours of stream. It's somewhere in there. Go find it. Like no one fucking wants to do that. So that's maybe where YouTube fits in. Good quality prints would be super expensive. Yep. That's yeah. I don't remember it's like Bay Photos, I think, is who I use, and then the paper also is what gets you. I want like, I don't know. I had them send their book, and of course the one I want's like the most expensive one. And so again, eating into margins. It's like if I wanted to sell prints at a competitive rate, I could print it on like cheap paper at like a Costco or something like that. And I don't know. I had this whole idea of like limited edition prints. I don't know if that's really the way to go. But yeah, just like the the realities of cost. And people's appetite, because the market's so saturated and like everyone's got a camera and people are be able to print like all sorts of stuff from their phones, like magazine covers being shot on phones. Like the idea of having a camera is not It's not an exclusive club anymore. Like it used to be. Like me shooting in high school, like people didn't have camera phones. They didn't have all sorts of shit. So it was like you had to shoot film basically. Um, People stream on YouTube. Well, there you go. Apparently they do. I saw like my thinking was everyone's got a YouTube or a Gmail account. The barrier to entry is much lower for YouTube. But having been in there and like actually seeing like what the ecosystem is, the tools at the streamers' disposal, the community aspect or lack thereof on YouTube, it's been great. I mean, I've had some great like commentary with people on some of the previous streams exclusively through YouTube. And I think the reality is like the shift is coming. I've kind of made mention like pre multi-streaming that like Twitch is probably coming. I just have to see if I want to like re-up the Streamlabs Prime or whatever it is so I can multi-stream. If it's still viable to keep the YouTube stream. Let's see. I'm proud member of that team. How do you join the photo streaming team? More popular would be how to cannot cinematic color grade. I know. I feel like step one is like, all right. Well, I don't know if it's like you need to get that teal and orange color palette. Here you go. Teal and orange. Cinematic. You're welcome. I don't know. I feel like I might be just not trying to troll people, but you know, it's like that's the key to cinematic editing and to a lot of people, and I don't know. There's more to that. It can be that simple, or it can be more complex. I definitely use that slider to bring in a lot of like teal and orange, but is that the key to cinematic editing? I don't think so. I think there's a lot more to it. Being a master of light is a small club. Yeah. I mean, I think both. I think like having the patience to really like master lighting, and I'm by no means there yet. It's something I work a lot on. Like I do a lot of like darker edits that get into like much narrow regions in the histogram where it's like every little thing kind of matters. That's why like when I see really dark edits that really have like a clear hierarchy and the color balance is right or feels good, to me like that's the ultimate. Like if you have like a bright image and you have like this wide range to work with, there's plenty of images that are great for it, but it's inherently easier to kind of like get right. Whereas some of these darker images, to me personally, like I feel like it's a bit harder operating within narrower color ranges. It's the memories tied to the photos that make them special. That's why streaming edits is a good combo. Yeah, I mean, I've always like maintained like it's always like the issue with like carrying a camera all the time and why people catch shit for having phones out all the time. It's like you want to document these moments, but I mean, maybe I put more priority on it, but like also experiencing these moments. Like there's these certain memories you have of actually being there. And like, I remember what like swimming out in Hawaii at sunset was like. I have that in my memory. Like it was actually more time spent observing than capturing, but yeah, I'm trying to like every time I edit, it's like trying to honestly replicate what that moment felt like. Because I think like emotions are so much more important than information. And there's some times where it's like all the information and details of the image are going to come through. You don't need to be kind of overly like buried in the emotion, but yeah, it is a nice way to kind of like relive things quite a bit. I don't like the cyan teal colors, they look dirty to me. Yeah. Dirty. Those dirty cyan. Oh god. Yeah, I see like I don't know, I think of like Is it like Michael Bay films? It's like teal and orange. Here you go. Teal and orange. Teal and orange. It's the style. And like I feel like with also more new people here, like I may kind of like shit talk things sometimes, but it's all like at the end of the day it's to each their own. Like I don't judge people for doing anything. Like if I pull up my oldest edits, like I've done everything that's bad. And I'm not saying those other things are bad. It's like everyone goes through phases and figures it out and has different taste. That's the beauty of photography to me, is like there's no right answer. Like if you want to open something up and you just want to like go nuts and just like make this post-apocalyptic like green fog, like this is cool. Like this is a style. Like it's not for me, but fucking go for it. Like, and I'm being very genuine when I say that. Like I try and not come off as like holier than thou. Like my way is the right way. It's just like I've got things that I've come to like over the years, and that's kind of what I gravitate towards. So, you know, I have opinions. I don't like everything, and it's okay if you like those things. That's totally fine. Shoot with anamorphic BAM cinematic shit. Yeah. True. And I don't even know, what is it, like 1.49 to 1 or something like that? My only experience with anything, so I've never shot anamorphic. I only know about anamorphic, so I don't know if you guys know. This is more like the photo crowd. I did like a poster series with Ash. So he shot all of this on like anamorphic. So this is like, I just remember this it's very just like bonkers fucking aspect ratio, and he made a point about shooting it. Although I would argue his stuff is pretty cinematic. He does a pretty good job at it. But yeah, I have heard some cheeky offhand remarks about cinematic, or about anamorphic before. Best camera is the one you have, 1000%. 1000%. I take so many images or shots on my phone, like it's usually when I like have my camera and leave it in the car. It's just like, I don't really need it right now. Just like the craziest sunset happens, and it's like, well, I could be mad I don't have my actual camera, or just capture it with my phone. Best cam is Leaf AFI 2 with 80 megapixel back, and I never even touched it. Is that a medium format? I wonder if this is their older one. I saw there's like 12. Or no. Yeah. 2008? You're right. I must be looking at the wrong thing. Any one of these shots you showed would look better with clean blues instead of teals. I really want anamorphic lens for my phone. Any of these shots showed look better with clean instead of teals. Are you talking about some of my edits? Because I definitely think I have a penchant for, like with skies, I tend to skew a little bit more teal. Especially this one. Like the sky is maybe, it's something about the desert, I always tend to skew more teal. And with this, it's maybe a bit more like magenta-ish. And like that's the one thing about like everything I do, like I don't use presets, I start from scratch, so it gives me a wide range of images at the end of the day, and I try and have like stylistic through lines in terms of like how I handle values, how I handle like whatever my like color contrast is, general contrast. So it feels part of a body of work, but I don't want to be too limited in terms of like where I take that. So I try and go like really dark. I try and have all kinds of blues, different color balances, blow things out. I don't know. I was talking about teal orange Michael Bay stuff, not yours. But what if I want those Michael Bay vibes? Is there a lens flare in here? Nice. Glad you like the colors though. But it's like, again, comments like that, like I don't take personally. Like I would legitimately want to understand, like if they did mean mine, like maybe there's something I'm not seeing. Because I don't have like everything here is like all self-taught. Self-taught and YouTube taught, I would say. And there's certain times, like this is probably one of my favorites, and it's always just like breaking the rules and like just getting weird, having an edible and editing. It's like that I know I'm breaking rules. I think the curves panel is where I really just, yeah. I literally just like, was like, well, I wonder what happens if I add blues. And I was like, fuck, this is probably one of my favorite edits. Like, it's the banner on every one of my social channels. It's like, man, it's just, it's different. Like, why not? So I can have my more like, what I would deem as like pedestrian type edits. Like, this feels kind of pedestrian. Like, it's nothing crazy. It's not overly stylized, but like picking moments just every once in a while, just like, fuck. Forget the rules. I need to not swear on this photography team. That could be a problem. I don't mean to be crude, but you know. It's kind of like OnlyFans, only their self-thought. Nice. The sand dunes are pretty. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite days of shooting. I shot so much. So this is like, I never would have like mentioned where this was before. This is all Death Valley. I'll give you oh, if you don't like shooting in the sand, like, yeah. So this is like the broader dunes, and you can just go out and hike it. I'll give you a free tip. You can set, I think it's if this then that. Or no, I actually never got it to work. Never mind. JK. Setting like notifications for wind, like high wind alerts. Because this only happens after high winds. So you need high winds and like a clear day after. So that's when the dunes are blown clean. Otherwise, you're gonna have footsteps everywhere. Like if you go without any sort of, without any like wind to clear the dunes, like you're just gonna end up. Why is it? That's interesting. Oh, see, trying to shoot into the sun and like put my hand up there, but then fat fingers getting the lens. It's good. But yeah, walking out all these dunes is just like, it's so painful. But the one that's, where is it? So I went there during a sandstorm. I think it was this. Yeah, so I was there for like the full ebb and flow. Like you can see how many footsteps are kind of in there as it's blowing. I think this is probably one of my favorite photos. The color grade on this is just wild. Don't judge me. The proper one's done in Capture One. This one's closer actually. Put this to the front. Video. Let's see. So this is actually like the what's it called? Oh, I can't control audio in this, can I? And it's always really loud because it's just a ton of wind. But this is the like the stream starting soon video. I want to see how loud this is. It's not that bad. Well, let's switch to a different video. Or no. No. Hold on one second. I don't play a lot of videos through this, but this will give you an idea of like speed, like not having a tripod. And so this is like this is like when I should have a tripod, because I'm trying to do videos based off of this, which I think I have, and just trying to get the stabilization of like one little moment is just wild. And so I actually changed lenses on the other side of one of these dunes, which was probably a bad idea, but yeah, it is like still one of the wildest experiences of my life. Like, I don't know, maybe I just need to get out more, but like you just walk out there and it's just like all you hear is wind, there's no one else around. I mean, there's a couple people around, but like, you see all these like moments of like, I don't know, there's so much cool stuff like here. But like if I'm gonna stabilize that, you have to like punch in so far. But yeah, your boy here was not prepared adequately. I had a balaclava, which was life-saving. If I didn't have that, I'd probably wanted to quit a lot earlier. I mean, you can see like how much sand starts blowing off the dunes. Like it is just, it's wild. But like sometimes there's these little like nooks down here where you can just sort of get some reprieve, but like if you're walking up a dune, it's like the worst. And so I had a shirt on, and it's just like sand blowing. Like there's no shortage of sand here. It's all blowing at like 50 miles an hour, and it just feels like it's ripping your skin off, which is fun. But like, yeah, I decided to change the lens down there somewhere. But yeah, highly recommend it. Oh, like the haze that gets created off of it. Just like when you go into editing, you can just do a lot more like, I don't know. You can bring in like a color grade to the haze around it and create like a totally different feel. I haven't seen these in a while. And so I think I talked about it on a different stream, but I think I'm gonna make a photo book, or I've started design. Excuse me. And it's all around like the ebb and flow of sand dunes. I don't know, it's just like I'm obsessed with going out there, and I think I'm gonna go back out when I see more winds. Only problem now is like it's June, and that's Death Valley, and I don't want to do this when it's 110 degrees. Probably 115. Like this was winter, so it was like 70. This was like perfect conditions. But then yeah, like the next day, it's just pristine. You can get all of this like geometry. This is where like I don't know why, but I went so like punched in at like 70 millimeter, or I didn't go punched in. I went wider at 70 instead of being punched in. And so that's something I'm finding like as I go back to some places. Like I went to Yosemite recently, and instead of like I always have like a 16 to 35 when I go to Yosemite, because like the scale is the most impressive thing there. But I've tried, and it's like I don't think there's any way to capture Yosemite in a way it like show that image to someone who hasn't been there and see if they actually understand the scale. And like they go there and they're like, yeah, that's what I expected. I don't think there's been one person. So I went there last time and I just decided to like, I took a lot of videos. I went with like 17, I went with like mostly like detail stuff. So if I do video, like picking out the details, things became much more interesting. This might be loud. Yeah, so I don't know. Finding things to stay interested with, because you kind of keep coming back. Switching lenses is one way to do it. Which is funny, because it forces me into a perspective, and that's basically what primes, I think, would do a lot of. But I don't shoot with primes. I've been burned so many times by having the wrong lens that I want the flexibility of a zoom. And the GM lenses with Sony are so good. Like every once in a while, maybe at like certain apertures and zooms, you'll see some sort of like softness around the edges, but I've never had like a print image or an image that I wanted to make a print that I just couldn't. I couldn't do it because of like image softness. Because when I first got the A7R2, I had a 28 millimeter f2. I think it was like $200, and I was like, damn, why is this lens so much cheaper? Like, sweet, I get the camera and a cheap lens, and I can start shooting right away, and like, it's great for just that, but start looking like just outside of focus, and the whole thing's blurry, and you kind of understand why it was $200. So that's always fun. But that's like living and learning, and then like you start learning that like photography is pretty much just a money pit. For me, at least. I won't speak for everyone. See, all right, this is where I need that. So you can't keep the guides while you crop. If I want something dead center, I've got to like, so now I have to use my screenshot tool. I just do, I reset. Like this is how I'm gonna have to find center now. Strange. Yeah. Now I'm stuck. Go away. Yeah, I don't know if there's any. I'm not used to having a photo crowd. It's kind of fun. Because photo is my original sort of creative outlet. It was like, I was a photo major to start with, so I went through a lot of those classes, and I realized I didn't have the personality for it, so I just kind of dipped from that. Ooh, see? Maybe the Lightroom. I don't think they've updated it for a while, but so I started with photo and then pivoted to design just because that was better suited for my personality. So kind of light up a little bit when I get into photo. I just know that there's more value for other people when it comes to design versus photo, so that's probably where I'm a little biased. I don't think my chat's working, by the way. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Again, if you're new, bear with me. I'm hopefully getting better. again, like I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know that I have to make a better effort to be better with balance. Like identifying like a heavy-handed or heavy dark edit and making the adjustment up front. Because then if you like if you try and go make that adjustment later, it's like it throws everything off and you have to redo everything. So it's like, all right, let's make this more like representational of the balance. And I'm trying to think of like a system of the best way. Whether it's like you take the midpoint of the values, so you're like basically shifting by like 35% in the histogram. That makes sense? I don't know. You're wrong. Softer. This is where I think like this sort of realm is kind of the expected. It's like, okay, really mind it. You can add some like color contrast by like really going with like the greens. I've seen people do like yellows. Maybe it's not the highlights, maybe it's the midtones. It's like greenish yellow almost. It's not, so this isn't the right image just because it's so soft in terms of like how flat the top end is, but because I think that helps is like creating a little like a dynamic component to like the color grading. Like if you go all blue, you're kind of just like wholesale applying blue, whereas like it's nice that you can control like what blue you want to add, but if you kind of create a little bit of contrast in it with like, what would they be, like tangential colors versus like complementary. My color theory teacher would be really pissed to hear me talking like. Yeah, I think. Yeah, so this is like greenish yellow. It's kind of getting yellowish up here. I don't really mind it so much. And for me and how I use all these, it's kind of it's not great, but it's a guess and check sort of mentality. And like sometimes I'll just make a hard turn. Really not mad about that. Actually, maybe I kind of am. I think I want this to be different so badly, but I don't really know what the answer is, so I'm just latching on wherever I can. It's like, I don't know if this is any better than, pull up. This is my FTP app, CyberDuck, where I put all my images so I can see what is currently 6, 5, 7. Wow. That's really what I have. It's almost like there's a... Can I add a gradient? Oh, what's going on? I do think I can make it darker. I think it's a little light. I'm sure some people are like, what? Because this is like, to convey this mood, I don't really know. It was like such a surreal spot. Like this is kind of, like maybe you can't make out the details of all this stuff. Because there's not enough information. It's interesting that the crop was so much tighter on the other one. Why did I do that? And I'm a firm believer of rule of thirds. This is where like I'll try and get the horizon line here. Kind of makes like a nice connection between like the car and the horizon line. But I don't know if I'm just This almost feels better. It's kind of like downward looking feel to it. Because you're not getting anything else up there. Arguably there's more information here, but it's kind of like, I don't know. This feels more like you're walking up to the car versus like this. It helps convey like the emptiness around it at the same time. I kind of see value in both, but I will say I'm definitely leaning this way. So what I need to do, I have this here. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Yeah, because this is not it. So that's something I've been kind of like fighting as I go back and rework a lot of these edits is there's a lot of like chunkiness to my old edits, partially due to clarity and partially because I thought the best way to create dark edits while retaining some information was to create like moments of contrast. And it's not wrong, it's just, it's gonna get you different effects, and I didn't really think through. I mean, you can see all like the kind of weird stuff going on here, where I'm creating like what I think are too many moments of contrast. I don't think this is advisable. So you end up getting like, again, what I call tonal flat spots. I don't know if that's really what they're called, but I made it up and it kind of works. So that's something I'm fighting now, and that was I don't know. I think dropping that and letting information go has been very helpful. Because like if you think about a moment that your experiences, like you can't see all the details and all these shadows and everything. And so me laddering back up to the idea of like I'm trying to accurately represent what it felt like in that moment. And in that moment, like there was like some images have like a very direct focus. This one not so much, it's more of like kind of the experience of it, but it's like I didn't need to see like the texture on this side of the tree. I think there was an old me that used to like want to pull that out, like maybe bump up the overall exposure, but then just kind of like mash the shadows and create like a little like blip where I could kind of create some contrast. I don't know why I switched images, but yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. So that's kind of like, that's how I can identify an old edit from a new one. The new ones tend to be a bit smoother. I'm doing less to the images in general. That's what I'm trying to do at least. You could argue I'm not with some of these local edits, but yeah, I think I've reworked this one a little bit. Right. Brain's right. I think rule of thirds is a particular case of a larger rule. I've been here on this channel now on 2 raids today. I was already here for the second one. Hey, maybe it's meant to be, Randy. I don't know, man. Just gonna throw that out there in the universe. Glad you're here, though, man. And the rule is main contrast lines of the image cross the frame and each other in ratios that are easy and to notice, like half it. And slightly more fits. Yeah, I mean, I think I've taken a very literal interpretation of it. I think coming from a design background, I think of it in terms of like designing my space. So if there's like key intersections of like where things should happen, like this bridge is crossing here, so like this pillar happens on the thirds. It's not perfect. I think there's a lot of stuff, and like sometimes I'll go against it, and I'll try and create tension by just keeping things like off of any sort of grid, like uncomfortable crops to like the edges. I think there's ways of yeah, creating that tension. Um, I probably have been like living and dying by it more than I should have. I just, for me, like my design background, like I love grids, I love structure, I love um, being deliberate, and being too deliberate can also make you feel stale. So it's like using it as a tool, but don't let it be a limiter in terms of like hampering creativity and like, oh, I need to conform everything to it. So that's kind of the battle I've been having with it through the years. Is like I was super OCD about it. It's like no, like I can't even like I don't know. I wouldn't like an image unless it really like felt like it was composed. But again, I think my images started to be recognizable as kind of boring in some ways. Like it was so just predictable in its layout. So then I started like shooting from the hip and stuff like that, and really just like just saying fuck it and just doing whatever. Because again, like photography is my outlet to just do whatever the hell I wanted. So it's kind of funny that I wanted this free expression, but I was trying to create all these rules and systems around it to limit it at the same time. Your work is stunning as always. Support of the creator. Appreciate it, Randy. Far too kind. The bridge is 1/3 on one side and a quarter on the other. That looks good. He touches the frame. Yeah, I mean, it's what's nice, like with the. I don't know if every viewfinder has it. Again, my woeful ignorance. I mean, you can control the overlays that you have when you shoot. So the rule of thirds is always overlaid on my viewfinder. So when I capture, I try and be very deliberate of like finding these sort of alignments and proportions I can kind of control. Again, not always something you can do. Like sometimes, I hate to say it, but like fix it in post. It's just like, it's just not something I can see in frame or like in the viewfinder. There's a lot of really weird, like, I can't be the only one, but like there's been so many shots that have just looked unreal in the viewfinder, and I get on my computer and it's just like that. There's some that actually ended up being great, but there's many where I was like taking the shot and I was like, damn, this is gonna be really solid. I get it back and it's just like it doesn't even make the first cut. Like I just trash it immediately. But I remember having that sort of excitement about that. I don't really know fix that. Why that happens. Why seeing things at a different scale, different context kind of changes things. Feeling blue, let's go. Michael Bay this shit. Nah, just kidding. And this image has always given me a hard time. I've had some edits I liked of it, but it's like, what is it? Like, what's its identity? Like, is it a bright photo or is it a dark photo? And like, I've always edited towards the dark side of it as almost being like shooting into the sun, so it's almost silhouetted, which I kind of have to do because it is really bright over here. Or do I lean into it and maybe grade the light? Which is something I've been doing more of, is like adding these really large, really soft, like negative haze clarity. And I think this is where I think it's gone too far. And it's gotten muddy. So this is kind of what I'm backpedaling from a little bit. But like you're able to add like a light source that's maybe got some temperature to it. Again, probably not advisable, but it's something I'm looking at these days. And you can see the blue and teals kind of coming in, like, or the orange and teal, excuse me. A lot of like warm tones through here and like teals through the shadows for some reason. Maybe that's inherently the color. But yeah, so this is, where's the other one? So this is where like I'll probably like
oscillate between the two of like, what is the identity of this? Think one's right, and then be like, nah, it's, I can shoot a bright image. Kind of like that it's dark, but it doesn't feel accurate. Back to lurk I go. My client is about here for a shoot. Good luck, man. Thanks for coming through and lurking. Appreciate it. Good luck with the shoot. I turned it off. I just have the level because even when you don't see the horizon, you kind of feel it on a level perspective wise, just not horizon wise pics. Always looks better than that. Yeah, I think I've known the way that like if I want to be very minimal with pictures sometimes, I feel like the alignment's really important. I think most things, it's like, okay, it's kind of a center focus, or you look at a horizon line and like optically, like your eye wants to probably go to those rule of thirds in some sort of way. But this way I can kind of, like if it's not super obvious where all the alignments are, I can kind of just, maybe it's not totally repositioning and reshooting it. It's just like, okay, I can kind of, I can tweak where an edge is hitting the frame. So I have to punch in less or do less cropping after the fact. I'm trying to find a good example of that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a good one. Because a lot of these like water shots are just blind luck. There's no grid on those. So it's like for here, it's like seeing how this line sort of traverses but averages along that bottom third. I could probably optically do it, but I think for something that's like so split like that, I like having it on there. But I probably like, it's only for like the more minimal shots or something like that that's like, I'm sitting there squatting in a bush waiting for the right wave to come through to get that shot. And I know like how I want to proportion it based off of that grid. But again, that's just sort of how I've been doing it. Oh, I know I'm gonna have a hard time with this. I don't know why I'm doing this on stream. I should do this in like a secluded, safe space. I'm gonna try the lighter. I don't know if it's really the answer I'm looking for, but like when I left Lightroom for Capture One, they didn't have any of these additional sliders. They didn't have this midtones. They just had split tones when I left. Trying to like, I always try and create a little bit of balance and like offset. Sometimes I'll go all in on one color across like shadows, midtones, and highlights, but a lot of times I try and like create some like complementary color happenings. Helps it feel a little more balanced typically, but then like what the balance is and how much you do is kind of up in the air. Honestly, like down here is feeling more interesting, but it's like it's directly fighting now, although like that warm radial thing I put there, but maybe that's what it needed to just kind of counter it a little bit. This is where I see this as like a tug of war. Probably not the greatest approach, but it's kind of the one I've taken to this point. It's again, like this is like going on feel. It's like there's a lot of moments like this where it's like, I don't know. I'll know when I see it, but I still haven't seen it. Again, like this just starts feeling like blowouts. I don't know if I need to take this off. It just feels weird. The colors are really strange on this. This is not the answer. Oh. I wonder if frame ratio dictates the rule of image, like 3:2 ratio picks want to be ruled by thirds, but a 2:1 pick wants to rule it halves? That's a good question. I've never even thought about that. Yeah, what's like the was it grid? No, the template, the overlay. This is not helpful. Everyone loves the golden ratio. I don't know what happened to your dog. Is the rule of thirds right for 2.39 to 1? Here you go. Origins of the rule of third. Squares within the rectangles. Damn. There. Ansel Adams quote. Good one. So I guess kind of, just because I haven't read it, but I guess it's based on the golden ratio too. It's from the golden ratio. Huh. Kind of. That would be my answer. I mean, it feels like thirds would still translate. Yeah, I don't know. Try this shit again. I go way out, pull it back. I don't think so. I want to try something. Just don't judge me when it fails spectacularly. Uh-oh. Wasn't meant to be. Oh, there we go. Normally I don't advise I don't like color grading through the global temperature. Just the way it applies colors is not, it just feels weird. It feels pasted on. So I wonder if I can bring this back by like going warm and then kind of pull back. But then it's just, there's so much color being applied to the original image. Okay, bad experiment. Let's go back. What time is it right now? Oh shit, it's 12:30. Yeah. I might need to call it there actually. Need to do this with photo. I can come back to this next time. But yeah. Thank you everyone for the questions, comments, all the raids, new people here, new subscribers. I don't know if anyone subbed. Actually, I can't tell the notifications, and I don't have the dashboard up, which I really should. I have to go through Streamlabs multi-stream comment section, which is really pretty terrible. So I think this, in general, is just giving me the confidence that Twitch is kind of the future for the live streams. Maybe switch over more. Or switch over to Twitch. I think that probably makes the most sense. But yeah, I'll probably be back maybe tomorrow afternoon. Pacific time. Um, I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably just leave it open and see kind of what's what. Get like a lot of photo people show up. Maybe dive into some of that. I've got some design stuff I want to do, like with the new photo website I'm working on with Ari. Um, so yeah. Let me see. Have you ever used 3D LUT Creator? Or for video or Photoshop work, but a very cool tool. If you decide to check it out and buy it, do it from a Russian site. It's cheaper there. Good to know. I have not really messed around with 3D LUTs. I've heard little bits and pieces of it, but not enough to really have an informed opinion. I will definitely give that a look. Yeah, thanks. I don't know how. Alexa. Oh. Got it, Alexa. I'm a little slow. Thank you for all the good questions. And yeah, I love talking about all this photo stuff. Super fun. Yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow I'll be back. If not, definitely some point this weekend. Maybe do like an edible in it stream. Get real weird with some colors. So, all right, guys, I'll be back.